Next, I'm pleased to introduce the founder and CEO of Sourcegraph, Quinn Slack. Sourcegraph builds code AI for the software engineering teams inside leading technology companies, global banks, and large industrial and manufacturing companies. Mr. Slack is going to share more about his view on demystifying the future of AI and coding. Welcome, Mr. Slack.
All right, it's fantastic to be here in Tokyo talking about code AI and the future of technology because actually as a young, impressionable kid, the very first place that I traveled to internationally was Japan, here in Tokyo. And for my entire life, Japan has been a beacon of technology, and it's made such a strong impression on me. So I'm really excited to talk about code AI because it is so disruptive. We know that technology in general is disruptive, but code AI is unique because code AI is disrupting technology itself, not just a single industry. So what is code AI? Code AI is software that builds software. It's code that writes code. Now today, pretty much all of the code in the world is written by a human software engineer. And they've written a lot of code. They're incredibly productive. We know that software is eating the world. But still, it takes a human to write all the code that exists. And that's a pretty big limit. In the future, that's no longer going to be the case. Software will build software, code will write code, and we will have 1 million times more software than we have today. That's a lot. Now, that sounds kind of crazy, but if you remember, back in 1943, Thomas Watson, the head of IBM, said famously, "I think there's a world market for maybe 5 computers." Clearly, that was wrong. There was a world market for many more computers, and that has changed the world in ways that nobody back in 1943 could have predicted. And we think the same thing will happen with code. We think that 99% and more of the code in the world will be written by AI, not by a human. Now, that doesn't mean that humans will stop writing code entirely. It just means that AI is going to be writing a lot more code. Not all of it good code, by the way, just like humans. And at this volume, there's going to be so much code that humans eventually will no longer be able to understand the system that runs our entire society and world. It will be a black box to us. All of this is happening a lot faster than anybody expected. A year ago, about 1% of software developers were using AI in coding. And now, thanks to ChatGPT, Sourcegraph Cody, GitHub Copilot, and so on, 92% of software developers are using code AI tools at work. And I think the other 8% are probably lying. So with all of these software engineers using AI, why is the world not already changed? Why don't we have flying cars yet? Well, this is not all happening overnight, because the hard part about coding is not writing the code. Anyone can write code. You have to write code that works. And in order to write code that works, you need to understand the code. If you're an organization that has code that goes back decades, that has mainframes, that has incredibly complex requirements, it takes thousands of humans to understand that code, and it's not easy for AI to understand that code overnight either. So this is the challenge, and this is the thing that AI needs to get better at for it to accelerate technological progress. So it's not going to happen overnight. How will it happen? We wanted to give some structure to the stages. And we took inspiration from the automotive industry, where they've defined an internationally agreed upon set of levels for self-driving cars. So for example, at level 3 conditional automation for cars, you're able to read a book as long as the car can nudge you and you can take the steering wheel back within 60 seconds. All of the automakers agree on these, and it's led to a lot of increased safety and much better communication and public awareness of self-driving cars. Now, there's still plenty of hype in self-driving cars, don't get me wrong, but this has helped a lot. And there's certainly a lot of hype in AI, so we want to bring the same level of clarity and international cooperation to code AI because it's such an important technology. And so we've created the levels of code AI, and this is how we see it unfolding. I want to start with level 5, which is the final level. This is when AI starts to write code for its own purposes. This is when humans, as I mentioned before, are no longer able to understand the code that runs our society. I personally am very excited about this. I know that for the last many thousands of years, technology has seemed potentially scary, but humans have been able to live better and better each time on average with each new technology that's created. But this is a ways away. It's not going to happen overnight. And I want to start where we are today. So most developers today are either at level 0 or level 1. Level 0 is obvious. That's no assistance when AI is not helping you code. That's how programmers have coded for decades. But now level 1 is code completion. And what this looks like, if you walk by a software developer, of which there's between 50 to 100 million in the world, and you look at their screen, you're going to see them still typing. But occasionally the AI will say, hey, you don't need to type this next line of code. Here it is for you. Now, the best AI systems only get it right about 30% of the time. So it's not perfect. But even that, completing the next line 30% of the time, that, according to some studies, leads to a boost of about 20% in software development productivity. And when you give a 20% productivity boost to a group of 50 to 100 million people around the world that are already disrupting so many other industries, that's actually really meaningful. But that's just the beginning of Code AI's impact. And I think you'll see it accelerate the disruption of other industries around the world. You'll see it make software development cheaper and more accessible to more firms around the world and to more people around the world. And that will be very good. What comes next is a little higher impact than just completing the next line. And this is code creation. This is when AI starts to be able to not just write the next line, but write 50 or 100 lines of code, write entire new modules or features of code. Now, the point here is the humans are directly telling it what to do, and it is taking a single step at a time. This is the current state of the art of Code AI, and this has the potential to make software developers 2 to 5 times more productive. Again, the AI is not perfect, and there's still a human in the loop. They need to review all of the code that's written, but this is going to be a massive disruption in many ways. We think that this will make it possible for knowledge workers inside businesses to interact with code directly, whereas previously they needed to go through software developers to build software. That means a lot more software. We also think that this will change the nature of how firms contract with system integrators or other firms. It will be much cheaper to bring software development in-house and to co-locate the software development skills with the people that actually understand the business domain problems, which, as anyone who's worked with a software engineer knows, sometimes it's hard to explain your business to software engineers. And this will mean that they are one in the same brain, one in the same person. So this will have a massive boost on technological progress, and it will start to disrupt many industries, but it's not anything that even resembles AI running out of control or anything like that. Where it starts to get very exciting is when AI is starting to initiate and take ownership of code. Level 3 is what we call supervised automation, and this is when it's essentially as though every single person can have 1 million software engineering interns or junior software engineers. So we think that at this stage, if you're not a regulated industry, and if you're not building truly cutting-edge technology, then 80% of software will be able to be written fully by the AI. Regulated industries like banks and governments and so on, and truly cutting-edge, truly innovative companies writing software that has never existed before, they will get some acceleration, but they will not be as affected at this stage. But that's incredibly exciting, that most basic software, most of the software that we use can be written by AI, and it can get better and better without human involvement for a very cheap price. That is very exciting to think about. What's next? As the AI gets better, it gets better at following rules, it gets better at writing safe, high-quality, scalable code, is that AI is able to be a senior software engineer, millions of senior software engineers available to anyone at their beck and call. And this is when we think that it will start to be able to write the software for regulated industries and for very complex technologies, the technology companies, companies doing deep hardware research, and so on. Now, this eventually will mean the AI is writing code that is so complex, so nuanced, that no human could understand it. And that's going to go fast. And that will turn into level 5, at which point the AI has created this system that I believe will make all of our lives better, but that no human will be able to understand. So one question I get a lot is, what's the timeline here? I said it's not overnight, but if you've ever worked with a software engineer, you know that they absolutely hate estimating how long things will take. You have to sit them down, you have to ask them a million different ways to get them to give you an estimate or to agree to a deadline. I am a software engineer, so well, I will give my best guess. I believe that we will get to the point where 99% of code is written by AI within the next 5 years. I believe that we'll get to level 3, where every person can summon millions of free software engineering interns to build basic software. I believe we'll get there within 5 years. That is incredibly exciting. That will accelerate technological progress. That will mean that people all around the world who have problems can solve them with software, whereas today they cannot because only about 0.5% of the world can build software. And that will mean that anyone with a great idea can build it, and if it's a good idea, get it to millions of users and improve all of their lives. We are living in an incredibly exciting time for technological progress, and I am so excited to be here and to be watching this unfold with all of you. Thank you.